Did a job at a huge footwear portfolio and I loved it. It was great. The brands were awesome. My team was fabulous. I couldn't ask for more, to be honest. But at the end of the day, or beginning of day, really, I'd sit at my desk and there was this voice, that dang voice. And it was just like, this isn't it for you. Like every time you sit at this desk, I felt like I was taking 100 steps backwards. And I couldn't understand why, because it really was picture perfect and anybody would kill for that job. I got free shoes. I mean, what woman doesn't want that?
You're listening to the Quit Your Job and Get Creative podcast, where we talk about quitting your unfulfilling job and pursuing your creative entrepreneurial dreams. My goal is to help you realize earning a living doing what you love is possible for you. You'll hear stories of women who have quit their 9-to-5 jobs and started their creative businesses. You'll learn how they did it, the ups and downs, and secrets to success. I believe that you are good enough and capable to live out your dreams. I'm your host, Jocelyn Clarkson. Now, let's get started. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode. This is Jocelyn here, and I'm so thrilled for today's guest. I have Blaire Brown, and she is the founder of Visionary Advantages, a brand strategy group that provides digital marketing services so you can focus on your business. Blaire is also the host of the Curate Your Success podcast, but she didn't get to be where she is today overnight. Blaire's entrepreneurial journey started at just 16 when she started her own handbag business, which was worn by Mary Kate Ashley. She was just 16, guys. She went to FIT in New York to study fashion and worked at fashion magazines, but wasn't feeling fulfilled. She then started a unicorn party supply company with her mom, attended a writing school in Paris, and worked as a marketing consultant. Blaire has a ton of experience, and today she'll be talking to us about the top 3 mistakes new entrepreneurs make when starting a business. Welcome, Blaire.
Thank you so much for having me today. I am so pumped.
I am so excited to have you. You have a long list of entrepreneurship experience starting at just 16. And I know, your family are entrepreneurs. So I know you've got some good advice for us today. But the way I like to start this podcast is, what did you want to be when you were young?
I always wanted to be a writer. First and foremost, that was my thing. I knew I was going to be a writer one day. And so this goes way back to childhood. I've always been a nerd, loving to read and whatnot. And my mom even started a writers club where my girlfriends would come over every other week and my mom would create all these writing-based things, like activities. And we'd write letters to authors and go to events where authors were at and things like that. And so I just always loved that. And I was like, I'm going to be a writer one day. And so that was always my dream.
That's awesome. What attracted you to writing? I mean, was it the act of writing? Was it the act of being able to connect with people, with these authors? What about it was so interesting to you?
I just loved reading, I think. And then I'm good at writing. And so I thought that would be my end all. That was whenever I was really little, but not that little, I guess. And then later I wanted to be own a fashion store. So that was also my second career path that I wanted.
Yeah.
But I guess, it's just the love of enjoying reading and being good at writing and thinking being an author was sexy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Young me was that seems amazing, right? I really just looked up to these people.
I love asking this question because, I get such a broad array of answers, and it's actually kind of cute and funny to think about what we thought as young women or as young girls that our dream jobs were going to be. I've heard cashier,
Oh, yeah.
because there was one guest that thought she could keep the money in the register. It's just so funny.
It's hers.
But it's also so amazing to look back to see, what our dreams were and how we started and where we ended up today. And it's crazy to, to just see how oftentimes it's not that first job we dreamed of. So
oftentimes not. Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you discover your talent for fashion? Because I know, you started your handbag business, but how did that come about? Was it something that, after you decided that maybe writing isn't for me, was fashion something that was on your mind? Or did it really just come up at, in high school when you were 16?
Honestly, I've just always been a fashion girl. I've always been obsessed with YM magazine, Teen Vogue, like all of those fashion-oriented magazine. And the real throwback, Limited Too, back in the day. And if anybody is in our age group, they remember that store. I used to save all of my allowance money and then buy like a skirt or something. And like, that's expensive for a middle schooler, but that's what I would do. I've always loved fashion. And so being involved in these magazines, like my head in them. And then come high school, I didn't initially think I would go into the fashion industry. I actually never thought of it as a career path. That was kind of by accident. All these girls at school were carrying Louis Vuitton bags, Coach, and things that most high schoolers can't afford on their own. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make my own. I was taught how to sew in the second grade. And so I'd always make fun little craft projects and whatnot. And so I was like, I'm just going to learn how to make handbags. So I started making my own, and it got a lot of attention. Strangers at Starbucks would ask me where I got my bags, teachers, friends, like a lot of people, it was just getting a lot of attention. So that's when I decided, I went to my parents. I was like, maybe I should start a business. Can I borrow $300, go to Joann's fabric store and start a handbag business? And my mom and dad looked at each other and they're like, yes, you can do that. And so I did it, and it just really took off from there. So I really went from like not knowing it could ever be anything. It was just like a fun little hobby and fashion moment for myself to like a business where I learned early about early influencer marketing, because some really popular girls at school would ask for my buy bags, and all of a sudden that would be the style that sells out. It's just kind of funny how you don't realize it until you're doing it and you're like, oh, this is how it works,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's awesome that you had the support of your parents. I think that's so crucial, whether it's your parents, but having a support group, it's so important when you're first starting out. So tell me, how did you teach yourself to make handbags? Because I think a lot of, even at 16, you figured it out. And so I think a lot of, entrepreneurs don't start because they're like, well, I don't know how to do this, so I'm not going to do it. I mean, you knew how to sew, but sewing garments is very different from sewing a handbag. How did you know how to construct the handbag? How did you teach yourself that?
Honestly, I'm somebody who can just like look at a bag and figure out how to make it. I made my own patterns and everything. It started out with like buying patterns, but then after that, I was able to figure out, okay, well, if I piece together the pieces this way, and like, I just made my own patterns. I was like, I want this shape. And so I just make it. It's just like somehow my brain is wired that way. And I think without thinking of it as a business at the very beginning, since I was 16, it was a lot easier because it was just like, okay, like I'm just going to create this for myself. But as it picked up, and then I had to get serious as far as like, okay, now I need to sell it online. And this is before Etsy existed. So I was like, okay, how do I build a website? So I went online and I bought something that was like website in minutes, one of those ploys. And then I building this dang website. And I'm like, this is not a website in minutes. This is weeks. It's a month. It took forever. But finally I got up and it was worth it. So yeah, it was just a matter of like one thing led to another. And then all of a sudden I just had a business.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. Because honestly, all it takes is just getting started, just doing the thing, and you'll figure it out as you go.
Yeah. And every single business owner operates that way. And like, even if they're established, they are still operating that way because you're always evolving. It's just, you got to figure it out. Once there's a need for certain steps, you do it. It's better not to think too much into it, right? Just do
better
it.
to not know the hurdles you're going to come across.
Better to not know.
Ignorance is bliss. Okay. So, you have this handbag business in high school, which is crazy. But then, you took the path and you went to school. You went to FIT in New York. So tell me about what was going through your head as you're going to fashion school? Did you think that you were going to take this handbag business to the next level? Were you kind of thinking that maybe you'd start a different business or maybe work for a fashion company? Can you tell me more about your journey through FIT and how that landed you at your internships and what happened to the handbag business?
Sure. So basically, got into FIT, and the best decision I ever made was going there. I loved it. It was such a great experience. The people there were great, like the students and the teachers. It was just awesome. But I went to the business school. A lot of people thought I would have gone into the design school since I was designing handbags. But in my head, I thought, well, I think you can always be creative and be a designer, but it's really hard to pick up later a business sense. So for me, it was important to get the business solidified before designing and whatnot. And also, I'm terrible at drawing, so I don't know if I would have gotten in with a portfolio in the design program. But business-wise, it was definitely gave me a good step ahead in getting in. So I got in, and I was in fashion merchandising at first, and my initial goal was to have my own brick and mortar shop that I would run forever. And that's, when you want to tell God a joke, tell him your plans. Because that was my plan, and that's not how it turned out, but it turned out better, so it worked. But I did end up selling my handbags at the school shop. FIT has a style shop where the merchandising group, the club runs it, and they have real merchandisers and buyers there. So they're very picky about what they buy, and then they do the markup and you get commission, and it was pretty cool. So I did that, and I was selling handbags out of my dorm room. And it was funny because I actually went to Virginia Tech for a year and a half before FIT. And when I was at Virginia Tech, I was the only person with a sewing machine because not a lot of people bring those to college, But I'm sewing the handbags out of my dorm room, and random people would stop at my room and they'd knock on the door, ask me to fix their clothes. Like, hey, can you hem this dress for my sorority event? Can you fix these ripped jeans that I have? And I was like, I got a monopoly over here. I'm just sewing. I'm charging $5 here, $5 there. It was pretty funny. And because 98% of the people who came by, I didn't know them. They were just referred over to me. So it's funny how that works. But yeah, FIT was a great decision. And I was in the merchandising program first. And then after taking a year off school, working in the real world, and then going back to school, I switched majors into advertising and marketing communications with a minor in fashion journalism, which is a total mouthful.
So at this point, where is the handbag business?
Just truly out of my dorm on Etsy and at the style shop. It was kind of dwindling at that point because I was so busy going to school, operating that business, but then also I had a part-time job because, you have to pay for stuff. And so it kind of just dwindled. And whenever I realized I couldn't really scale it, it wasn't something that I was having manufactured. I was doing this all by hand. And so how much can you charge for a handbag if you're doing it by hand at an hourly rate and you're paying for supplies to be worth it, So right. I kind of had to hang up my handbag and just keep it as a hobby at that point. And then I decided to shift my gears into a different direction.
Okay. So you changed the majors, and tell us about your first job out of college, your first professional job.
Okay. So I was in between school at that point. I realized 2008 hit my family. So I had to make adjustments real fast to figure out, okay, I can't afford school this year. How can I go back to school? And so in my head, I thought, okay, I'll get out of the restaurant jobs, which is what I was doing before for school. And then I'll get a full-time job in fashion as a product development company. So they design scarves and beachwear and outerwear, things like that. It was a pretty cool showroom, but it definitely was not my cup of tea. It was very hard, 7 a.m. be at the office. I was leaving at 9 or 10 p.m. I was getting sick because I was so stressed. It was definitely Devil Wears Prada, but not as sexy and cool as Vogue. So I'm I wish I had been Vogue, but I realized quickly, I was oof, okay, I need to switch things fast. But it was a blessing in disguise, honestly, because I learned that at a young age. I was 21 at the time, and I was okay, so I need to switch focuses because I can't live like this. Right. So that was the merchandising path that I was on. And so whenever I went back to school, I ended up switching into advertising and marketing communications. And then I thought I was going to focus on fashion journalism. So that my next dream was go into fashion journalism, work in a magazine, much similar to my childhood dream of being a writer. So I did give it a stab, and I interned in magazines at Domino Magazine, which is interior design for those who don't know it. It's amazing. They were fabulous to work for. And then Mary Kate Magazine as well, which I made a lot of great lifelong friends there.
That's amazing. And so as you're going through these jobs, especially, at Mary Claire and at the Interior Design Magazine, what are the signs that indicated that you weren't really feeling fulfilled? Like, how did those signs come about? Because I think they can come out in very different ways. Maybe it's kind of like a little voice in your head, or maybe you're kind of you're maybe picking up drinking a little bit more, or you're probably stress eating, or, what were those signs as you were going through those jobs that kind of signaled, I don't think I'm on the right path?
So for those jobs, I realized maybe interior design wasn't my thing. I mean, now I love decorating my place, right? But to do it as a magazine, it was like the perfect job, truly. And I still love it. But I was just like, I'm not as excited to go in. Like, it's just not. I was like, that's why I switched into fashion magazine, because I was like, well, I've always loved fashion. Let me see what it's like to work at a fashion magazine. And so when I was there, I was like, this is really great. Has so much potential. However, I learned quickly what the salaries are there. And then I saw the lifestyle as well of like not being like, you can't have a side job and work at a magazine because you have to be on 24/7. And there's no ladder because this is all my opinion, but like I saw that there wasn't really much opportunity to move up unless somebody gets fired or quits. And before that, you're working all the time for minimal pay. And I was like, this isn't a good trajectory for me if this is what I'm gearing up towards, because I have to make enough money. I have to pay for my own stuff. So like most people do. So then I shifted once I graduated college, and I landed a job at a huge footwear portfolio. I worked for 8 different fashion footwear brands and in marketing, branding, and PR. And I loved it. It was great as far as the brands were awesome. My team was fabulous. I couldn't ask for more, to be honest. But at the end of the day, or beginning of day, really, I'd sit at my desk and there was this voice. It's that dang voice. And it was just like, this isn't it for you. Like every time you sit at this desk, I felt like I was taking 100 steps backwards. And I couldn't understand why, because it really was picture perfect and anybody would kill for that job. I got free shoes. I mean, what woman doesn't want that? And they're really nice name brand ones too. So I was like, something's off, but I kept going to work. I kept doing my thing. I kept trying to move up. And then that voice just kept talking to me. And I was like, something's off and I can't put a finger on it or what it is, but I can't do this for the next 40 years of my life because I'm going to be so depressed. Like what? I really was depressed about it. I was like, I need to be more exciting. Maybe I'm just becoming a boring person. I don't know. One day I had this crisis moment over my job. And so I went out and I auditioned for The Bachelor. I was like,
wow,
I can't, if I have to quit my job and be on The Bachelor, I'm going to do it. And so I went out and applied. I got to shake something in my life has to change. If it's that, right. If it's, I quit the job, I was applying for jobs. They weren't nobody was responding to that. And I have a really good resume. So it didn't make sense. And a lot of factors just built up in me. And I was like, I just have to come up with some sort of exit plan.
Yeah. I love that you say that. I mean, I'm sorry you went through that, but no, it's
okay.
I had a very similar experience, and it's so interesting that you talk about the jobs because I also job hopped. I thought maybe when I wasn't happy in my finance job, I thought it was the company. So I would switch companies and, I was hopping jobs every year until I finally landed on, I was working for McDonald's corporate Fortune 500 company, best company I have worked for, hands down. And when I realized that I was so miserable in this job that was amazing, respected boundaries, didn't make me work weekends, that's when I realized that it was not necessarily the company, but what I was doing. And so I think it's so important that, I find it ironic actually that both of us made that realization when we both landed at the perfect place to work at.
Yeah, truly.
That's what had to be kind of that that awakening moment. But, you know, it's true. It's like you have this voice in your head, and the more that you repress it, the louder it gets.
100%.
And it shows up in so many different ways. And, you know, for me, it was like, yeah, I reached a point where I was literally crying a few times a week. Like I was like definitely depressed, like drinking on the weekends, stress eating, like it was bad. But, you know, it's always interesting to see how those feelings really come out, because if you don't listen to that voice, like it's going to tell you whether it's in your head or somewhere else. So what gave you the courage then? Because is this when you started exploring writing again?
Yeah, well, before this actually, well, I guess during, it's kind of a tricky time frame because I worked at this, you know, this one job in marketing for a long time. And in the middle of me being there, my mom knew how I was starting to feel. And my mom called me one day and she goes, hey, like I've been researching some things on YouTube, saw this Amazon FBA business. It looks pretty cool. Maybe we could start one together. And I was like, okay, Mom, you're hip. You're on YouTube. Love it. So I started looking into she started sending me links. I looked into it and I was like, okay, Amazon FBA, this is something that we could do. We're both, you know, we're entrepreneurial. Like we'll figure it out together as a team. And so that's how we started the unicorn party supply business, because that never goes out of style, right? Kids always love that. So it was kind of a funny journey, her and I. But it worked out really great because I was working crazy hours. And so when I couldn't look things up and talk to customer service on how to set it up, right, then she could. And then vice versa. We both have different skill sets that were complementary. So we ended up launching that while I had my corporate job in fashion, and I was bartending on the weekends to make extra money. And so it was a lot, but we made it work. We sold out of the product, but it wasn't as profitable as we wanted. So anyway, fast forward, I was kind of like you, where at the end of it, I was researching all these jobs that also seemed perfect, but a nice next step. And then I just was realizing I'm not going to be happy there either. So basically what got the courage for me is I was applying for jobs, and I landed on some girl's LinkedIn page, and she had a dream job. She worked at Condé Nast Traveler, and I had just gotten exposed to solo traveling I'd just done my first solo trip to Paris, and it was unbelievably life-changing. It totally changed my life. It was amazing. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I came back to the US. I'm alive. I'm fine. I could do this again. Right. And so I saw she worked there, and I was like, you know what? Like, that's a dream job. How did she get that job? So I'm stalking away. Right. I never reached out to her. I still don't know her name. I should probably look her up again, but she went to this American University of Paris. And I was like, okay, if it's an American university, surely they speak English, because I don't speak French. And so I looked it up. Sure enough, they speak English. They have a creative writing program. It's only 3 weeks, because at this point, I don't need another degree. I have it. It's fine. But I could brush up on writing. Like that could be something beneficial to me if I want to pursue this as an actual career. And so I decided to apply and see what happens, because what's the worst case scenario? I lose a small fee to apply. No big deal.
Hi, Boss Babe. I want to take a quick second to tell you about how you can get free business advice, coaching, and trainings from me for free. Yes, I said that right. Absolutely free. If you are thinking of starting a business or have already started a business, but you're not getting the sales that you want or are struggling in general, then you need to attend my free weekly live trainings. I cover topics like how to prepare to quit your job, or how to get over your fear of showing your face online, and so much more. You can register using the link in my show notes, or simply go to my Instagram at Quit Your Job and Get Creative and click on the link in bio where it says free training, and make sure to register. Can't wait to see you there and help you grow your business. Now let's get back to the show.
So I apply, tell my family, I'm like, yeah, so I applied to this American University in Paris. And honestly, if I get in, I'm just going. I'm quitting my job. I'm going. My family's like, wait, what? And then they're like, you know what? Go for it. They're so supportive. They're the best. I don't know how they deal with me, but they are awesome. So I applied, and I was just like so excited. I was like, maybe it'll happen. Who knows? And then come January, I got accepted into the Paris program. So logistically speaking, it just made more sense to quit my job in May, go to Europe for the summer, take the course at the end of the summer because it was July, 3 weeks, and then come back and figure it out. So that's exactly what I did. Like 6 months before quitting, everything was so calculated. First, I planned the dang trip out. That took a long time. Second, because it was a solo trip too.
Wow.
Second, I had to save money for it because I didn't have a huge nest egg. Most people do not that are my age and live in New York City. So, what I did was I took my PTO at my job and I was picking up bartending shifts. Since that was my college job, they always let me pick up shifts whenever I felt like it. And so that was so helpful to saving money for the trip. And then they also gave me a guarantee whenever I came back from my trip. They're like, oh yeah, we'll put you on the schedule again. No problem. And so I was like, thank you so much. So then I knew whenever I came back from Paris, I could just slide into bartending again and then figure out my writing career at that time. Yeah. So that's essentially what I did. And it was like the greatest decision of my life. It was definitely scary because 2 weeks, I kid you not, before I quit my job, they decided to promote me.
No.
And it was a big promotion. I was like, are you kidding me? Like in my head, I'm like, well, I accepted, but I was like, this is going to be an awkward conversation in 2 weeks. So
wow.
What can you do?
Hopefully you enjoyed a little influx of pay for a 1 pay period.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly.
You are such a hustler. I mean, the fact that you took PTO from your corporate job to bartend, you took a day off to work. I mean, because either PTO, you're going to get paid anyway, and you have to use them up or you lose them.
Down.
So like, I love that about you. You are a hustler. And it's great that you had, that bartending job because a lot of people think, oh, if I quit my job to start, my dreams or this business, I'm going to lose that income. But it's like, it doesn't mean you can't get another job. I mean, you could still get a part-time job, one that allows you the flexibility to be able to start the business and work, but then to also be able to fund the business. And so a lot of people think it's like, it's either black or white. You can't have both. And I think that you're an example of, okay, you quit your job, but then you also had this side thing that gave you the flexibility to explore that, to be able to go to Paris and then come back. And so I really want people to realize that there is another option. There always is. And the fact that you had it lined up, you were like, okay, when I come back, I'll figure it out, but I'll be okay. Because at the end of the day, we are going to be okay. We have to trust ourselves that we're going to figure it out.
And that's the thing is my parents, I was like, at the end of the day, they said, what's the worst thing that could happen to you? You're bartending, but you already have fun doing that. And like, you've worked there for so many years since it was my college job. It's not like some new place. And you can always apply for jobs in the fashion industry again if I wanted to go back for some reason. I was like, you're right. That is the worst case scenario. That's not bad. So I took it and it was the greatest decision ever. It was freeing. Even whenever I came back to bartend my first shift again, I was so happy. I probably had some goofy, embarrassing smile because I was so happy to just be doing my own thing and making moves towards what I wanted to do. And I also want to add in there for anybody thinking to quit their job also, it's never too late to shift in any way for career paths, because even going to that Paris class, I was 10 years older than every student in that class. And it was so funny because I was like considered old and I wasn't even old. But my advisor was 19 and I was 29 and it was just funny, but like it worked and I was so thankful for the opportunity. And I just was like, you know what, this is on my terms and I'm going to figure out what entrepreneurial path it's going to be. And at the time I thought it was going to be writing.
Yeah, no, I love that you take those risks because that's what it is. And that's what entrepreneurship is trying new things. And it's funny, like you said, what's the worst that can happen? So many of us are so afraid to take those bold steps. But when we really sit down and think about like, what is actually the worst thing that could happen, we realize that it's not that bad. And it's actually just all in our heads.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely want to switch gears here because I definitely want to hear, what your top 3 mistakes that you think every entrepreneur makes when starting a business. So how about you walk us through those 3 mistakes? I know you have a lot of experience and I'm just excited for listeners to be able to learn from you.
Okay. Yeah. There's plenty of mistakes that all of us entrepreneurs make. I'm still making them. You will too. It's just going to happen, right? So just embrace that fact and know that you're just going to learn and come out better from it. But the first mistake I see entrepreneurs make is definitely not treating their business like a business. They get stuck in hobby mode forever. And then that's just where that's where it starts. That's where it ends. And so if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, you really need to get serious and respect yourself as an entrepreneur. Be like, if you want to make moves, go all in and make the moves. Like Jocelyn's made moves, I did. Like, if we can do it, you can too. And so if you have this side hustle and it's a hobby right now and you're like, oh, like maybe one day it'll be a business and you're juggling another job at the same time, we need to make moves. And by becoming an official business owner is a way to get out of that hobby trap. I think setting up your business on an official level, like, let's say it's an LLC is your path or an S Corp or whatever that means to you and what makes sense for your business, make it official. And then you're going to be treating your business 1,000 times differently. Like immediately, as soon as you get that little notification from whatever state you're in, you're going to be like, oh, I'm a business owner. Like I have this LLC or whatever it is. It's a game changer. It's such a quick thing that you can also DIY. You just go to irs.gov and do it yourself, or LegalZoom. There's like a million different resources to do this. It honestly doesn't take long at all. So just switch out of hobby mode and get into being a real official business owner. So that's my number one thing. I think that most entrepreneurs make the mistake because they just are so stuck in their head and they're scared of taking the risk. But how risky is it to either go for it or to stay where you are and then 5 years from now be in the same position? So that's what you have to ask yourself. How bad do you want it?
Yeah. I love this tip because one of my coaching students just last week, I had a call with her and she wanted to apply for her, reseller's permit so that she can buy wholesale. Mm-hmm. And, we're talking, she's like, yeah, I've been meaning to get that. And that's what she needs in order to buy things at wholesale and be able to go to markets and sell. And I was like, okay, well then do it. And she's like, oh, but I don't know. Like, I don't know how much it's going to cost. I'm like, well, it's your homework to do it. So by the next time we talk next week, it's going to be done. And I was like, if you can't figure it out, then go to City Hall downtown in person and ask them how to do it. And so it's funny. She texted me 2 days later and was like, I figured it out. I did it online. By the next call, which was a week later, it had already arrived in the mail.
Exactly. Like it's so fast.
It's actually not that hard.
It's not hard.
Exactly. And that just goes to show like, this is just one example of how we overcomplicate things. We make them seem like they're much more like complicated than they actually are. But you can literally do this online within 20 minutes and within a week, it could be in the mail and you could have like your official business registration. Like it is not that hard.
And here's the deal. If you make a mistake, you can fix it. Because if it is like an official mistake, like an LLC or something, they want to help you because the government wants their money. So they'll help you. Like they're not going to, you'll be fine. Like don't stress about it.
Yeah. So, and typically it's like a small fee. I mean, in Illinois, it's like $75 if that.
Yeah. It depends on the state for sure, but I've done it in different states. I live in Florida now, but my first one was in Maryland. I've done it in New York. Every state's different, but what's not different about them is it's very easy to do it yourself. So just get out of hobby mode and become a real business owner and treat it like that. Number one.
That. Okay. Now, top mistake number 2.
Number 2, drum roll. Once you're official, it's exciting, right? You're like putting stuff together. You're setting up your emails. You're setting up whatever you need to do. There's a lot of stuff going on. Maybe you're trying to get your first client already. Here's what people do is they don't really take the time to invest in their branding. It's really important to understand that branding is not one, but 2 things. It's your visuals and it's also your messaging, how you're going to be talking to your audience. And the thing is most people just lean on visuals and that's it. They don't do the 2. You need both for it to be really effective. And what's really important is you should also take the time to think it through. Like, don't make it stop you from starting your business, but take like a couple days, put it on your calendar as appointments or something. So that way you sit down and you treat it like a business and you set it up right. So that way, by the time you are officially live, you have that website, you're set up a beautiful Instagram or whatever you're building. You have it nice. It looks cohesive across every single platform. And then is speaking to people in ways that are professional and that you want people to be attracted to you. That's the number one way that you're going to attract the right people, is your messaging and your visuals together as a brand, because nobody's going to see some like slop together branding and be like, oh, I really want to spend a lot of money there. It's not how it works. You need to have the right, it's a first impression. It's like dating, you got to put the best first impression up front. So what most entrepreneurs that are new do is they just slop it together. They don't put any thought into it. And then they think that they're going to attract clients, when you should put a good amount of time into it. Not like a year or anything, obviously, like a couple days, right? Do it. And then you'll be set for attracting the right clients consistently. And instead of having to go back later and having to redo it after you don't make sales, you're frustrated, you've lost money, and you're like, crap, I need to redo this. So do it the right way the first time and you'll be good to go. I'm sure you'll be making adjustments here and there, but at least you have a thought out first try.
Yeah. Now, Blaire, do you think that entrepreneurs need to invest a lot of money in branding? Because I think a lot of times people think, oh, it's so expensive, I don't have the money to create nice branding. Do you really think that that's a factor that should hinder entrepreneurs on getting started?
Not at all, because we have this glorious tool now and resource called Canva, and there's a free version. And if you want to go level up, $12 a month. So I think it's like something like that. I don't even know, but it's the best resource ever. You could build your own logo on there. You can build up your own templates. Create color palettes. There's coolors.com, spelled COOLORS.co. Oh, it's .co, not .com. My bad. Another free resource, you can create your color palette there. These are really great resources that you could do yourself, and you could do it in like a sitting or two, depending on how analytical you are of it, but free, and you don't have to be a graphic designer. That's the key here. So you don't have to spend a lot of money at all. Definitely not.
Yeah. No, I love that, because again, a lot of times people are like, well, I don't have the right colors, the right branding. I don't have beautiful graphics. And it's like, well, you don't need to spend a lot of money, but it's important to put thought into it and to put the time in. Right. And yeah, I talk about Canva all the time.
I love it. Yeah.
Any listeners, if you're looking to start a business, I use Canva multiple times a day.
Yeah,
and honestly,
me too.
They could charge more and I would still pay for it. So if you haven't checked out Canva yet, check it out now for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right. Now, top mistake number 3.
Number 3 is thinking that you need to put your hands in every single process and system in order to have a successful business. That, my friends, erase it from your brain, because yes, at first you will have your hands in everything, right? Temporary. Over time, you need to set up systems to where it's automated. You need to simplify and automate the heck out of things, because then like tiny tasks like posting on social media, important, right? You need to have social media presence of some sort. But doing it manually yourself every single day at a certain hour and all these things, all of the timing of that really accumulates versus setting it all up in like an hour or so, maybe less, for the month. And then just having it automatically post for you. You don't have to think about it every day. Stop what you're doing and post and do this and do that. Adds up. So if you can automate that, that's even better. Emails, you can automate them. You can set up a great workflow, like a welcome sequence. So somebody subscribes to your website, they're automatically in there. You don't have to touch anything. It's already set up. Beautiful thing. So I'm so all about automating things if you can. And then also, once you get to a spot to hire on some extra hands, like a virtual assistant or somebody that can take some of these tasks off your hands, like they can even be the ones scheduling in your automating tools. That's a game changer. Do that. Do not do it yourself manually forever just to save $5 a month or something. Because you can actually be using that time you're saving to think big picture strategies for your business that are going to move it forward faster, which in turn brings in more money. So do the math here, and it's worth investing in those tools.
Yeah. I mean, you avoid burnout because then you can focus on your genius, like what you're actually good at, what you enjoy. Otherwise, you're going to start hating your business, especially if you're doing things that you don't like. One funny story, when I started my clothing brand, I thought that I needed to know how to make patterns, sew, dye fabric, all of these things. And so when I started, I went to, good old Joann's, coming in for the win.
Classic Joann's.
Got my sewing machine, tried to sew my first top, and it came out like obviously, because I didn't know what I was doing, and I put it to rest. So I kind of paused this business idea of mine for 3-4 months because I was like, well, obviously I can't do it. So I can't start this business. And then I just got networking with fashion designers, and I was like, there are pattern makers who do this. There are seamstresses who do this. You just need to have the vision and the understanding of the process. Yeah. And then you can fill in the gaps. You can outsource, you can delegate. You don't have to do everything yourself. And one example that I like giving is, like, you think about big companies, right? McDonald's, Coca-Cola, all these companies have thousands of employees. If you could do it all, there will only be one CEO, and that would be doing it all. But that's not the case. They have literally people designated to do certain items of a business, to run it. So I think another thing to make your business official is to get out of that mindset that you need to be in the assembly line. Like, in order for you to grow and to scale, you gotta be you can't have your hands in every piece of your business. You really have to take a step back and see, how can I automate this? How can I pay someone else to do this? Or who else can do this for me? So you can focus on your genius, whatever it is that is in your business. So those are amazing tips, Blaire. I love that.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, like with website design, for example, some things that will take me 8 hours because I want to shift one tiny thing on my webpage, right, will take my web designer 5 seconds, right? So that's the difference here. If you just think about your business in that way and you are delegating smart, you'll be way more efficient, and you'll allow yourself to grow so that your business is sustainable.
So, Blaire, what are some actionable steps that you would give women who are listening right now, who are maybe driving on their way to work, sitting at their desk to a job they feel miserable at? What would you say to them? They want to start a business, but they don't know where to start.
I think first, listen to that gut instinct of, you want to get out of that job, right? Evaluate if getting out of that job is because of that specific job, that position, or if it is entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is tough. So you really do want to make sure that you know what you're getting into, right? And then if it is that, do something about it. And I'm not saying quit your job and have no backup plan and no money, right? I'm saying, like, be smart about it. Make an escape plan as far as, like, how are you going to save a little money, or how are you going to exit the job and then have a part-time job while you build up your business? Something smart like that, so that way you're actually making moves. Even if you have the hobby I spoke of earlier and you want to make it a business, make it official today. This is something that Jocelyn and I both said, you can do it online today. You'll probably get the letter in the mail next week. And if you get started on that, how are you going to walk into your job the next day? Like, are you going to feel like more confident that, all right, I'm at this job, I kind of hate it, but I'm making moves right now and nobody knows it. They don't know what's coming. How exciting is that? So I think that's a huge second step here. And also just sign up for entrepreneur communities. Go on Facebook. There's plenty of entrepreneur communities on there. I have one too for my podcast audience of entrepreneurs. They're free. It's just surrounding yourself with a community. So get that support. Plenty of free resources online. Just get started.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Blaire. And then where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, your community, your podcast, your business? How can they find you?
Easiest place, you can just go to my website. It's my name, blairebrown.com. And that's Blaire spelled with an E on the end. Blairebrown.com has so many free entrepreneur resources. So if that's something that you're toying with, go on there, start with the free stuff. And then the second step would be just to go to my podcast. I speak to entrepreneurs all the time on there, and we give away awesome tips on how you too can build your business. So blairebrown.com, and then go to the Curate Your Success podcast, which is also on my website.
Thank you so much. We're going to be adding these links in the show notes, so definitely refer back to the show notes and add those links. Go follow Blaire. Well, thank you so much, Blaire. Thank you so much for giving us your tips, sharing your story with us. And, listeners, I really hope this resonated with you. And it's a reminder that if you have a dream, you have that voice in your head, just start, because you never know where you'll end up. Blaire started off wanting to be a writer, and now here she is with her own digital marketing firm. So congrats to you, Blaire, and thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode. I truly hope you learned something new or became inspired to start your business. Make sure you're following me on Instagram so you can stay updated on new episodes. That's Quit Your Job and Get Creative. And if you ever have any questions around business or quitting your job, please don't hesitate to reach out to me via Instagram message. I'm here for you. See you in the next episode.